Well, at least we still have some games to talk about here, but for obvious reasons and what's been going around here, who knows when we'll be continuing here. Anyway, it's that time of the month as it's time for another episode of Hi there, it's Brett Hornby here. Welcome back to another episode of my Calgary Roughnecks this month. Here we are up to Season 2, episode number 5 here, as it looked like March was going to be a much busier month with a lot more games to recap here. However, we still at least got to play one game, and now everything is on pause, given what's been going around here, but I still plan to have this video out at this time here. So before I get into the game recap here, if you want to follow along with this Calgary sports fans journey, home of the Flames, Hitmen, Roughnecks, and Stampeders, just make sure you hit like, subscribe, and follow along. I also do Calgary sports and game recaps when there is games going on or there's still sports stories going on. I also do personal vlogs, attempt to comedy, and I share my experiences. Let's say I'm not the road or at a sporting event. So if that sounds like you all be interested in, do follow along with this Calgary sports fans journey. You know what you need to do, and I also have my other social media links down in the description below there. So without further ado, let's recap how March went for our lacrosse team in the National Lacrosse League, and I guess we'll also touch on what's still left on the schedule and who knows when we'll get back at it here. So the first game in March here, this would have been Game 10 because we're just starting the second half of the 2020 NLL schedule here. Game 10 happened on Sunday, March 8th here, as the Calgary Roughnecks were on the road here to take on the Toronto Rock at the Scotiabank Arena. It will be a 1 p.m. ball drop there. And a couple storylines coming into this game here as well. If you recall in the last episode here, the Calgary Roughnecks lost a tough one at home there on some controversial calls here. So this was a game that the Calgary Roughnecks were looking to move on from that game. As well, this was also another game in the inaugural Alterna Bank Cup here that the NLL started here, which is a cup for all the 5 Canadian teams here, and whoever had the best record amongst the Canadian teams would win the Alterna Bank Cup here. But obviously that's also on hold here. And another thing that's definitely been prevalent with the Calgary Roughnecks this past season here is that they've been very strong on the road, but then haven't been as well at home here. So we got to wonder, will this pattern continue given that the Calgary Roughnecks were on the road here? So the first quarter both teams did start off slow, and the game did not see its first goal until the 5.5 minute mark. So we waited 5.5 minutes to get a goal in the lacrosse game here. However, it was Dan Craig, not the James Bond. There was a guy named Dan Craig who plays for the Toronto Rock here, opens up the scoring to make it 1-0 here. So we waited till the first 5.5 minutes of the game to get the first goal here. However, it was short-lived for the lead for the Toronto Rock here, because Reese Dutch for Calgary ties it up at exactly the 6 minute mark, 7 seconds later. So we had a 1-1 game at this point. And then Calgary did score 2 more goals to take a 3-1 lead in the first quarter here. First it was Zach Haybriers a minute and 44 seconds later. And then Curtis Superman Dixon got his first just past the 11 minute mark. So it was 3-1 Calgary, past the 11 minute mark of the first quarter here. Toronto did close out the first quarter by answering back with 2 goals of their own here. First it was David Brock just over a minute later from the Curtis Dixon's goal. And then Damon Everts just past the 13.5 minute mark. So now we had a 3-3 game after the first quarter here. Second quarter, Calgary had their best quarter of the game. I would say definitely most offensive production. It's actually the second quarter for the game overall had the most goals of the 2 teams here. Calgary did score the extra goals in a 3.5 minute span here. First it was Curtis Dixon again at the 2.5 minute mark to give Calgary the 4-3 lead. And then Dan Taylor and Mitch Wild scored 2 goals in the 14 seconds apart here around the 6-minute mark. So Calgary now had a 6-3 lead at that point of the game in the second quarter. However, Rob Heller for Toronto gets one back for the Rock here 43 seconds later, but then Curtis Superman Dixon scores his third of the game for the hat-trick a minute later. So Calgary had a 7-4 lead about the midway point of the second quarter here. Toronto gets one back again as Tom Schreiber 28 seconds later to make it a 7-5 game for Calgary at this point here. And then Reese Dutch again gets his second of the game just before the 10-minute mark to make it an 8-5 Calgary at that point. But Toronto did score the next 2 goals here. First it was Josh Jubenville just past the 11-minute mark. And then Tom Schreiber scored for Toronto just past the 12.5 minute mark. So now it was an 8-7 game for Calgary at this point here. Dane Dobie, the captain, scores for Calgary. It gives them a 9-7 lead just past the 13.5 minute mark. So now we have a 9-7 Calgary lead going into halftime here. Second half of the game was definitely had less offense overall, as the defense definitely tightened up and the goaltending shut the door when it needed here. First, Calgary did add to their lead as Dan Taylor scores 49 seconds into the third quarter here. And then Tyler Pace makes it 11-7 for Calgary just before the 2.5 minute mark. So Calgary had 2 early goals in the third quarter here to set the tone here. However, Toronto did get 2 more goals of their own in the third quarter. First one wasn't until the 7-11 mark of the third quarter as Shannon Rogers scored, and then Rob Heller just past the 12.5 minute mark. And that was actually all the scoring in the third quarter. So Calgary still maintained their 2-goal lead. So now it's a 11-9 game after the third quarter here. Fourth quarter was definitely more of the same as the third quarter in terms of not much offense and defensive play here. Calgary did get a goal first by Shane Simpson past the first minute and a half to make it a 12-9 game for Calgary at this point. Toronto get one back by Scott Domi past the 7-minute mark to make it a 12-10 game here. And then much of the fourth quarter was 12-10 for Calgary here. But Calgary did get one more goal, but it wasn't until with 17 seconds left in the empty netter here to put it away to make it 13-10. And Calgary ultimately wins this one 13-10 here to continue on their we win on the road and lose at home pattern here. Because right now, Calgary is 4-1 actually on the road, but they're 1-4 at home here. So their overall record is 5-5 at this point here. And also getting back to the Alternative Bank Cup here, they're also 2-1 in that race here as they beat the Vancouver Warriors and the Toronto Rock Finley, both on the road here. However, they lost to the Halifax Thunderbirds towards the early in February there. So they're 2-1 here in the Alternative Bank Cups here. So that's how they figure out is the record between when the Canadian teams play each other here. So that was the Alternative Bank there and the overall record. Calgary also outshot Toronto 53-41-9 in this game, and they were very dominant in faceoffs overall. So they definitely controlled possession right away as they won 22 of 28 faceoffs here. So that's another thing to note here. There's definitely lots to go around for Calgary here. It was very balanced offense here. I mean, well, Curtis Superman Dixon, he had 3 goals for the hat-trick here, but you can also say Reese Dutch, he chipped in with 2 goals and 3 assists, and then Taylor also had 2 goals and 2 assists. And then Dave Domi and Tyler Pace, they also each had a goal and 4 assists in this game. So it was a much more balanced overall effort by the Calgary Roughnecks, a core of their team for the last few years, and definitely was a part of the championship last season here. On the Toronto side of the ball here was Rob Elliott. He had 2 goals and 3 assists there. Dan Craig had a goal and 3 assists, and Tom Schreiber had 2 goals there. And then when it comes to, and then also can add in that Dan Dawson also chipped in with 3 assists for the Toronto Rock here. So when it comes to the goaltending here, well, Christian Del Bianco, CDB, he made 39 saves for Calgary here, while it was Nick Rose who made 40 saves for the Toronto Rock here. And actually, that was the last game that the Calgary Roughnecks has played up to this point here in the NLL season, because, given recent events here and a lot of sports either are being postponed or canceled. I mean, I know recently I made a video where I talked about the 2020 Memorial Cup being canceled, which affects, Calgary Edmonton junior hockey, and then, the Olympics that were going to be in Tokyo this summer were postponed till 2021, and basically all major sports are paused right now with the NBA, NHL, NLL, and MLB here, and still up in the air with football there. So let's just take a look at the schedule here that was still on top here that the Calgary Roughnecks still had. That we don't know if we're going to make up these games or when, or will this season be scrapped here. I mean, the only bright side we can say about that is that we'll still be champions as we were the NLL Cup champions last season, but I'd still rather, have my sports back considering all things happening here. So here's what was still remaining on the schedule before play was suspended here. As the next game, it would have been on game 11. This would have been on Friday, March the 13th here, as the Calgary Roughnecks would have been back at home to take on the Saskatchewan Rush. That would have been at the Scotiabank Saddledome. 7:30 ball drop here. That would have been the St. Patrick's Day party there, and another chapter in the Calgary-Saskatchewan sports rivalry here, and another game in the Tournament Bank Cup here. And then they would have, that weekend would have been busy here because they would have played here Friday night here, and then game 12 would have been on Sunday, March the 15th, as the Calgary Roughnecks would have went on the road here to take on the New England Black Holes at the Mogan Sun Arena. That would have been a 1 p.m. ball drop here. Crazy NLL schedule here. You don't play for weeks, and then suddenly you play 3 games in 8 days here. And then the next game would have been actually game 13. It would have been on Friday, March the 20th here, as the Calgary Roughnecks would have been taking on the Colorado Mammoth on the road here at the Pepsi Center. It would have been a 7:30 ball drop there. And then to wrap up March here would have been game 14. It would have been on Saturday, March the 28th here, as the Calgary Roughnecks would have been taking on the Vancouver Warriors. They would have been back at home at Scotiabank Saddledome for a 7:30 ball drop there. So another game in the Alternative Bank Cup there. And then when we shifted to April here, game 15 would have been on Friday, April the 3rd here. Would have been the rematch of the NLL Finals last season, as the Calgary Roughnecks would have been taking on the Buffalo Bandits at home at the Scotiabank Saddledome. That would have been a 7:30 ball drop there. That definitely would have been a lot of storylines in there with that classic finish that the Calgary Roughnecks had, winning game 2 in overtime here to clinch the championship over those said Buffalo Bandits there. Of course, we're going to miss out on that, or have to wait on to that, maybe until the summer, who knows. That would have been game 15. In game 16, the Calgary Roughnecks would have been playing the Saskatchewan Rush on Friday, April the 17th here, as the Calgary Roughnecks would be at home to take on the Saskatchewan Rush. Scotiabank Saddledome, 7:30 ball drop there. And then on game 17 would have actually been the next night here, as we would have had a home, as the Calgary Roughnecks would have been taking on the Saskatchewan Rush, but this time in Saskatoon at the SaskTel Center. It would have been a 7:30 ball drop there. And then game 18 would have been the last game of the regular season. That would have been on Saturday, April 25th. The Calgary Roughnecks would have been on the road to take on the San Diego Seals at the Pachinko Arena. That would have been an 8 p.m. ball drop here. So that was what's remaining on the schedule here before the pause button was pressed on the regular season there. And I think you all know out there why that's the case. And I'm talking around saying the exact words for the algorithm that, and definitely, like everyone else, we're all pins and needles here. So that's the one game recap and what was still left on the schedule here. So who knows when the next episode will be for game recaps, or will the season eventually get canceled and put a close to season 2 here. But for the time being, it's still going to be on hold until otherwise there. And of course, any later news, I'll make a video on it. So before we wrap things up here, let's just take a look at where the Roughnecks stand, and players, stats, and that, since we have a little more time here. So first, when it comes to the standings here, as I mentioned, the Calgary Roughnecks are 5-5 overall here, and we still have 18 more games left here. The Calgary Roughnecks are actually in 4th place in the West Division here right now at 5-5 here. I mean, they have 2 games in hand on the San Diego Seals. They're 3rd place, and they are 6-6. And then Saskatchewan Rush leads the West Division at 7-3 here, and then the Colorado Mammoth are 7-6, and then the Vancouver Warriors are 5th place in the West Division at 4-9 here. So that's the West Division here. North Division here, well, you got the Halifax Thunderbirds are in first place. They're 8-4, and then the Toronto Rockets 7-4, tied with Buffalo Bandits at 7-4, and then the Rochester Nighthawks are 2-10 there. And then the East Division, well, you have the New England Black Wolves. They were 8-3 first there, and then the Georgia Swarm are 7-5, and then the Philadelphia Wings are 8-6, and then the New York Riptide are 1-12 here. So we would have had some tougher games here, and how the playoffs would have worked here is the top 3 seeds would get 1 through 3 in the playoffs here. So you would have New England, Halifax, and Saskatchewan get the 1 through 3, and then the runner-ups would be 4 through 6. So it would have been the Georgia, Toronto, and Colorado here. And then the next 2 would have been the wild cards here, would have been Philadelphia and Buffalo, looking at this right now. So the Calgary Roughnecks would be outside looking in on not even making the playoffs and having a chance to even defend the NLL Cup here, but there's still some lacrosse on the schedule here whenever we get to play here, but that's the standings here. And I have to say, it's the fact that the Calgary Roughnecks, they play well on the road, but then they struggle at home here. And I know we actually had a couple tough, close losses at home there. So easily that record could be, a little different there. And then we played a third of the season without Dane Dobie here. So let's show a couple of scoring leaders here, or at this point here. Curtis Superman Dixon is leading the team in scoring with 41 points there, including 21 goals and 20 assists here in the 10 games. And then Dan Taylor second with 36 points, 14 goals and 22 assists. Reese Dutch is third, and he actually missed some time to injury there. He has 25 points in 6 games here, including 8 goals and 17 assists here. And Tyler Pace is fourth. He's only played in 7 games because he had some injuries too. He has 24 points, including 7 goals and 14 assists here. But let's look at Dane Dobie. He's only played in 4 games, and he has 23 points, including 4 goals and 17 goals and 6 assists there. So Dane Dobie's definitely made up for some lost time there. If you go to CalgaryRoughnecks.com, you can see all the player stats at this point here. And then Christian Del Bianco has played in every minute of the action here, as Tyler Richards has not played at all here. So in 10 games here, Christian Del Bianco, well, he's 5-5, and his goals against average is 10.94, and he 05 save percentage, which is solid numbers for lacrosse here. He has 11 goals against in 10 games there, so if he tries to keep the goals against 10 or less here, he get generally more success there, and he's made 457 saves here. So Christian Del Bianco is definitely one of the top goalies right now in the NLL here, and he's still fairly young here, so he was definitely a big reason why the Calgary Roughnecks were able to, of course, with everyone else, big part of the championship win there. So yeah, that's definitely like Calgary Roughnecks this month for March here, and who knows when we'll be back and when there'll be games to recap here, or is this it for season 2 here? And I still got 4 tickets left, and everything's just on pause and on hold right now. So as I say, if you want to follow along with this Calgary sports fans journey, home of Flames, Hitmen, Roughnecks, and Stampeders, just make sure you hit like, subscribe, and follow along. There's that bell icon if you want to be notified as soon as this Calgary sports fan uploads anything. I mostly talk sports, Calgary sports in particular here, but I also cover some other sports that interest me. But I also do personal vlogs, attempt to comedy, and I also share my experiences. Let's say I'm at a sporting event or on the road there. Those laugh at sounds like anything you would like to watch. Do follow along with this Calgary sports fans journey. You know what you need to do there. I also have my other social media links down in the description below there. So as I say, go next go, and I wish we had more games to talk about and recap here, but given the circumstances, it is what it is right now. So as I say, I'll see you in the next video, and who knows, season 2 is going to continue here.